Most people think their 40s are about balance. You finally earn enough to breathe. You're not young and reckless anymore. You're not old and fragile yet. So you tell yourself, this is the decade where I stabilize. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't realize until it's too late. Your 40s are not about balance. They're about locking in a trajectory. By the time you're 55, almost everything that determines whether you'll feel financially calm or permanently anxious has already been decided. Not because of one big mistake, but because of dozens of quiet, reasonable decisions that felt harmless at the time. This isn't about becoming rich. It's about whether money will feel like a tool or a threat for the rest of your life. And the scary part? Most people think they're doing fine in their 40s, right up until the anxiety becomes permanent. In your 20s, mistakes are elastic. You recover fast. Time is on your side. In your 30s, mistakes are expensive, but still reversible. You can work harder, pivot careers, move cities. But your 40s? Your 40s are where time stops forgiving you. This is the decade where income peaks or plateaus. Energy declines quietly. Obligations multiply. Risk tolerance collapses without you noticing. And here's the key insight most financial advice misses. Your 40s aren't about how much you earn. They're about how much psychological pressure you lock in. You're not deciding how rich you'll be. You're deciding how tight or loose money will feel for the rest of your life. Something subtle happens in your 40s. You stop asking, how much can I grow? And you start asking, how do I protect what I've built? That sounds responsible. It feels mature. But it's also the moment where anxiety sneaks in. Because protection has a hidden cost. It trades upside for fragility. In your 40s, fixed expenses harden. Lifestyle becomes non-negotiable. Identity gets attached to stability. You don't notice it at first. You just notice that raises don't feel exciting anymore. Unexpected expenses feel personal. Every decision carries more weight. This is when people unknowingly cross from financial growth mode into financial defense mode. And defense mode is where long-term anxiety is born. Here's a paradox that traps intelligent people. The more comfortable your life becomes in your 40s, the less room you leave for error. That bigger house? That finally nice car? Those upgraded vacations? They don't just cost money. They narrow your margin for psychological safety. Most people think anxiety comes from not having enough. In reality, anxiety comes from having just enough to lose. You're no longer worried about survival. You're worried about regression. And regression feels worse than failure. This is why two people with the same income in their 40s can live completely different emotional lives. One feels calm and optional. The other feels trapped and brittle. The difference isn't income. It's how early they locked in irreversible obligations. Your 40s are full of decisions that sound responsible, but quietly reduce freedom. Things like, we deserve this upgrade. It's safer to lock this in. This is the adult thing to do. Each one feels small. None of them feel reckless. But stacked together, they do something dangerous. They convert flexibility into permanence. And permanence is where anxiety thrives. Because once your life requires a certain income to function, every job becomes scarier. Every downturn feels personal. Every risk feels irresponsible. This is why people in their 40s often feel more financially stressed than they did earning less, more anxious despite being ahead, less free despite more success. They didn't fail. They optimized for stability too early. Here's the brutal truth. By your late 40s, your financial anxiety stops being situational. It becomes structural. Your expenses expect consistency. Your lifestyle resists downsizing. Your identity resists change. So even if your income stays strong, your nervous system doesn't relax. Because the threat isn't poverty. The threat is loss of control. And once anxiety becomes the baseline, people don't reverse it. They carry it into their 50s, into their 60s, into retirement. That's how you end up with people who have enough money, did everything right, still feel unsafe forever. Not because they failed, but because their 40s quietly decided the emotional rules of the game. Your 40s force one unavoidable choice. Do you want money to buy comfort or buy peace? Those are not the same thing. Comfort is lifestyle. Peace is margin. Comfort looks good on the outside. Peace feels good on the inside. Most people accidentally choose comfort, thinking peace will follow. It doesn't. Peace only comes from optionality, slack, psychological breathing room. And those are hardest to rebuild once obligations harden. The calmest people later in life aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who, in their 40s, protected margin instead of image, resisted permanent upgrades, treated flexibility as an asset, kept their nervous system in mind, not just spreadsheets. They understood something subtle but powerful. Money is not just a financial tool. It's an emotional environment you live inside. Design it wrong in your 40s, and you'll live with that emotional climate forever. So, if you're in your 40s right now, here's the real question. Are you building a life that looks comfortable, or one that will feel calm when things don't go perfectly? Because the uncomfortable truth is this. Your 40s don't decide how rich you'll be. They decide whether money will ever stop making you anxious. And once that window closes, most people never get another chance to redesign it. If this made you rethink a decision you thought was just normal, subscribe. This channel isn't about getting rich. It's about escaping the traps intelligent people fall into quietly. And those traps almost always start in your 40s.